Ritz-Carlton Reserves Zadún is one of only 9 Ritz-Carlton Reserves in the world. It is a Forbes 5-star hotel, has 2 Michelin keys, and is acclaimed as one of the very best in the Los Cabos region. Now, it's no surprise that this has been a little bit of a crazy week here in the area, but I'm still going to give this hotel a full review and a final score at the end. I reviewed this hotel out of 50 points in 5 categories like always. The categories are the ambiance, the room, the dining, the service, and the it factor. The Ritz-Carlton has the mantra legendary, gracious, and inspiring. And that's consistent across all of their 108 properties around the world. But the Ritz-Carlton Zadún, here in the very popular Los Cabos region in Mexico, is said to be one of the 10 best on the planet. So why don't we give that a test and start with the ambiance section. Kicking off the ambiance segment, let's talk about how this resort is actually laid out with this map that my team and I made here. So it is a very large property and pretty difficult to get around. You need golf carts to get really to any part of the hotel that isn't in the main central area. In that main central area, you have the restaurants, you have the bar, which is the most iconic part of this hotel. You also have all of the lobby, the hotel check-in, and the Sensei Spa down below. We'll take a look at it in just a second. Right in front of the main building is the main pool, and a little bit lower is the secondary pool. There's a gym as well next to the pool, which is kind of buried underneath the ground, and there's a third pool next to the gym. Generally speaking, that is everything here in the property, so why don't we kick it off with the pool. This is the reason you would book a hotel like the Ritz-Carlton Reserve here at Zadún, the main pool. What's really interesting about this one is it is now only 6 p.m., and they've completely wrapped it up. So there's covers on these chairs, the bar is closed. I found that to be extraordinarily odd. This is the peak time as the sun is just starting to set here when you would want to come to the pool and get a cocktail and swim, but it is closed. While we're here, I'm going to talk a little bit about this pool. So the water is warm, but it seems like naturally warm, so just about the same temperature as the air. It is heavily chlorinated. You can smell that when you touch it. And it's a pretty wonderful atmosphere. Stark, sharp lines, modern in contrast with the natural environment, which I personally enjoy. They also have cabanas that you can rent. So this cabana here is $300 US a day. But before you pass judgment on that, it does come with a bottle of sparkling wine, a fruit plate, snacks, and unlimited non-alcoholic drinks as well. And a great perk next to the pool, they have complimentary popsicles that they come out and hand out on hot days like today. Great perk. They're hanging by the pool. Let's keep moving. Gracias. So as I mentioned earlier, these are the golf carts that take you all throughout the property. It does take quite a lot of time for them to show up, so you kind of have to plan your day knowing that you're going to call the bellman or whomever's coming to your room to pick you up. They could definitely use a few more. All right, what do we have here? So every guest that stays at the Ritz-Carlton Reserve here gets a coche-mi, which is a handmade art piece that you can take home with you. This is so beautiful. This will definitely be coming back with me. The spa here at the Ritz-Carlton Reserve is a Sensei Spa. So if you've seen the 4 Seasons Sensei that I did in Lanai, this is the same concept. It's one of their collaborations around the world, and the entrance is stunningly beautiful. It's almost like you're entering into Indiana Jones or Lara Croft. I mean, it has this very deep jungle fire, dark hues, shadows kind of feel to it, and it definitely sets you in the mood for having some treatment in there. Why don't we take a look closer inside? So when you first walk in the Sensei Spa here, the lobby is a pretty marked difference from what you see in the entranceway. The quality of materials drops pretty significantly, and generally it kind of feels like you've just entered into a mid-level gym. There's complimentary drinks and waters and snacks, but still it feels like something's missing. So for a 60-minute base level massage with nothing special, it is 5,785 Mexican pesos, which is around 340 US dollars. Definitely a lot for a 60-minute massage, but believe it or not, it's far from the most expensive that I've seen on this channel. Now here in the gym on property, the gear is pretty sparse. And you'll notice that that's a theme throughout the entire property as a whole. There's just a lot of space in here. So this is a good room maybe for doing some core workouts, but I can't really find any of the yoga mats. There's very few little medicine balls on the wall. Not the most impressive. There's one other part to the gym, and then we'll keep moving. On the other side of that wall is the main equipment here. So you have techno gym equipment, which is very high tech. You'll find that in almost every Ritz-Carlton Reserve. But again, it's a pretty narrow, small gym on this side as well, with a lot of the gear packed in pretty tight. I'm assuming it gets hot in here during the day, so they pull the drapes down, but then you don't really have much of a view. Doesn't exactly inspire you to come get a sweat in. As I was leaving that subpar gym, I noticed there is a full lap pool outside. So this is pretty awesome. You have a full-length swimming lap pool here with a view of the ocean, some bougainvilleas next to it. This is pretty epic and redeems the gym just a little bit. There are a lot of spaces around this property that look like this. This is kind of just a stairwell into the basement, but this is actually how you access the fitness center and quite a lot of different places here in the property. From a design perspective, it's not like other Ritz-Carlton Reserves that I've seen. Not even close to as bad as the one in Hokkaido, but definitely not even close to Dorado Beach or Nekauai. Anyway, more to see. Now let's speak to the property and the maintenance of the property. You can see around me, we really are in a desert environment here. It is quite hot here in Los Cabos, and the sun mixed with the desert plants and the white stone really reflecting the sun create a pretty intense environment, I would say. Maintenance-wise, everything here is manicured. The paths are clear and the grass is cut, but it's not really the most beautiful. Now, yes, they do have some natural limestone dotted with green trees, but everything feels a little bit sparse and not really like a place that would be an oasis in the desert. It's more like you are now subject to the desert. With that being said, there are staff all throughout the day maintaining the property, and generally they do use high quality materials everywhere you go. Now, in these public spaces, it changes pretty dramatically at night. To summarize the ambiance section of the review, you really just have your standard, quintessential, simple beach resort here at the Ritz-Carlton Zadún. Couple of small interesting things about the property. That Sensei partnership is definitely one of them, but overall, it's kind of just your average resort that they built into the cliffside right next to the beach and could pretty easily be transported anywhere in the world. There were many areas around the property that just were not very well manicured or were missing that extra special design element. Like where I'm standing right now is kind of just a perch that could have been used for so much, but instead is just sand. With that being said, there's a great investment that was put into this property. If you want to swim in the pool, there are multiple. There is a full beach, although you can't swim, but there is a comfortable beach, and it definitely does check the box of a luxury hotel. Checking the box puts the score for the ambiance at a 7 out of 10. You're probably curious, how are the rooms here at the Ritz-Carlton Reserve? I've read online that that's one of the best parts of this hotel. It's time for the room segment. Welcome to the base level room at the Ritz-Carlton Zadún. So, there are 115 rooms just like this here on property, and they go for around $875 US per night when you include taxes and fees at the time of recording this. The room card is a wooden room card that looks like this with a nice design on top, but unfortunately, there's not much else in the room that represents the same level of design as this card. I'll show you what I mean in a second, but I also have a surprise for you at the end of the room segment here, where we're gonna look at a $35,000 per night room at the Ritz-Carlton Zadún. For now, let's start here. In the standard room here, this has 2 beds, which When I booked, I did request a king. They didn't have one available, so here we are. I will say there are a lot of pillows on this bed. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pillows on this bed alone. Very excited to give this a try. Ritz-Carlton Reserve beds have been hit and miss on the channel historically. This one looks very comfortable. We won't know for sure until I wake up and I give it a bed test in the morning. Over here next to the bed, a couple of peculiar things. You have the moon and the sun. So this is actually how you tell the staff if you don't want to be bothered or if you want the room to be made up. You put that on the door. Some waters next to the bed, a modern speaker system, and all of the modern touches that you would expect at a Ritz-Carlton Reserve. So you have buttons here that control the shears, the drapes, the lights, but that's really all there is to see over here, with the exception of this backsplash. This designed wall I really like. I think the soft underlight here with the heavy shadows going up on this textured concrete gives the room a really nice style and design. That was what I was mentioning before when I said there's only a few elements in this room that carry the design of the room card. This is one of them. The other is in the minibar. There's a geometric pattern in the minibar area, and if you pull these doors open, you have your minibar. Now, that may have looked smooth on camera, but I can tell you that the design and build of this room is actually pretty clunky. A lot of the doors don't really fully connect the right way, the way they should. There's a lot more tension than would be needed in sliding these doors. You can tell maybe they're a little bit off the track. It's not a big deal, but little things like that start to make you feel like maybe it doesn't have the polish you'd expect. Speaking of missing polish, this is one of the most disappointing mini bars I've seen so far. All of these goods here, the dry goods, are highly processed, seed oil, sugar laden, low quality. Some examples are we have chili gummy bears, regular gummy bears, chocolate coated peanuts, caramel popcorn, banana chips, nothing that is local, nothing that takes into account the place. When you're here in Mexico, in Los Cabos, at a Ritz-Carlton Reserve, competing with the one and only and the Four Seasons, you absolutely have access to high quality mini bar amenities and snacks, and these are just really not great. To make matters even worse, there is a charge for everything you see here with the exception of the water and the coffee. Up above you have your spirits here, and down below is the mini bar. So in the mini bar, it's similar to what you find in the dry goods area. You have some coconut water, which is a little bit of effort there, and a couple of different drinks that have juice in them, but generally speaking, it's Pepsi, Coronas, doing the bare minimum. For me, this is where the disappointment in the room really started. Now let's talk about the art and the welcome amenity when you walk in the room. Here's a good example of the art. Not the worst I've seen. There are a couple of pieces in here that are local. You have a beautiful looking cloth that's encased in glass. The art in the room is solid, and that's also the case in the welcome amenity. So right here, they call it a voyage of discovery from the comfort of your room. It's a culinary experience that draws Baja's natural flavors. So they have some natural traditional candies here, some chocolate caramels, olives, grapes, cheese, and a small cake. There's quite a lot here to try, and I like the fact that they're bringing in those natural flavors. You did not get that in the mini bar. You do right here in the welcome amenity. But again, this is gone after your first day. The mini bar is meant to continue to be refreshed so that you have it for the entirety of your stay. So that's everything here in the room. Let's get outside. You do have this very pleasant outdoor area in every room, and it has an exceptional view. There's this little courtyard with stone and sand here. You've got natural different stones and materials that are kind of encompassing this entire area, and a fireplace. But here's the catch. You have to ask your butler, and we'll talk about service later in the Tasani that you have here, your butler, you have to ask them to come and actually light the fire. Well, when I checked in, I knew this was something you had to do, so I asked the Tasani if he could come to the room and light it. It's been many hours now. No one came to actually light this. You can't do it yourself. They don't give you the materials to do it. So, no problem. We just don't get to see it with the light. You have a very large lounger over here with a cloth covering on the top, and generally speaking, one of the better balconies in a base level room. This is the bathroom. Quite spacious, quality materials, dual vanity here, simple amenities, and a big mirror on this side with some relatively nice ambient lighting. My opinion on this room so far, and for what you've seen so far, I think they're hitting the bare minimum of what they would need to do to actually make this a reserve. It just barely skims by on the quality, barely skims by on the design. It's just not a very impressive stay compared to other hotels that are less expensive and don't call themselves Ritz-Carlton Reserves. It is a spacious bathroom. You have a full plunge tub with bath salts and a very large shower, which we're gonna test in just a moment. The shower test is 4 criteria points like always. That's the size, the ease of use, the pressure, and the cleanliness of the shower. So I did look at this shower earlier when I first came in the room. I mean, what a beautiful bathroom. I figured I might as well try it, see what it's like. This is gonna be an interesting one. So at first glance, looking at the size here, the size is great. No seating area in here, but you do have a seating area right next to it. Amenities are alchemia, ease of use. Confusing shower, difficult to use. You turn one dial here, and that changes the temperature. This dial on the bottom is kind of hard to move. Actually, whoa, turns on the sprayer. Wait, now I'm actually confused. Oh, there we go. So the left one turns on the water, the right is the handheld sprayer, nothing indicating that. There's just a red and a blue dot, which is actually the top here. But as soon as you turn it all the way to hot, this is what happens. Ease of use, very poor, but even more poor is the pressure. Half of these are not even spraying. It is all the way to hot right now. Now, if you come down from hot a little bit, they start to spray out, but then you don't get the warm shower. This is a lukewarm shower. If you want a hot shower, this is how much hot water actually comes through the piping here. We got sputtering going on, spraying sideways, a pretty poor shower experience. It's also an inconsistent pressure, but this is completely unacceptable. Shower is clean, so on that front, not a problem, but you can see right there, this absolutely fails the shower test. There's that one more shower to take a look at though. Let's hope this is not half as bad as the indoor shower. One dial and one strong stream of water. That's also more of a trickle than a consistent stream. Fun, not really practical. No handheld in here, so not great for women. This is more just a visual thing for the room. As promised, I have a little surprise for you. Now, this is the highest category room here at the Ritz-Carlton Reserve. This is aptly called the Reserve Villa. It is massive. There are 2 bedrooms. It goes for around $35,000 US per night. There's a private pool, a gym, and you can even add more villas, so you kind of have this entire coastline here. You can see around me, tons of space, natural elements, stone and wood. It really matches the rest of the property beautifully. In fact, when I was pulling up to it just now, I thought this was an addition to the spa. It is so large and so zen in here. Now, $35,000 is a lot for a nightly rate for a villa, but you do get a lot of space for what you're paying for. And in low season, that can come down to around $15,000 a night. Okay, so that's the villa here, top category. Let's go back to my room. The time has come to sleep in this Ritz-Carlton Reserve bed here, give it a full review in the morning. But before I do that, I want to talk about 2 things in the room here. The first is turn down service. So later in the review, we're gonna take a look at the service of the hotel in general, and part of that is how do they handle turn down. Turn down is when the staff comes into your room and gets it ready for sleep. Usually there's some kind of amenity or gift or even a chocolate. Here at the Ritz-Carlton Reserve, it is just a bottle of water next to the bed and they dim the lights, which is fine. That definitely hits the mark for turn down, but it's not one of the most special turn down services and something I always look for. The second thing I want to do is call the front desk and order room service breakfast for a certain time tomorrow morning. Later in the review, in that same service segment, we'll see if it arrived on time, is it hot, is it fresh, how much did it cost? I always order the same thing. Could I order room service breakfast for tomorrow, please?
I'm ready, sir.
Wonderful. Could I do an Eggs Benedict and a black coffee, please?
May I do your Benedict egg with ham?
Yes, that's right. It would be for tomorrow morning at 7 a.m.
And one black coffee for tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Would you like to add something else in your breakfast service?
No, that's perfect. That'll do it.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Your service will be there. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Now that we've done our order, I have one final thing to talk to you about. That is my outfit. So here at the Ritz-Carlton Reserve, they give you pajamas, but it's not really pajamas like what we've seen in Japan, for example. This is more of a cardigan. This is my own shirt underneath. So you can kind of wrap yourself. Either way, I'm gonna sleep in it because they gave it to me. Let's get some sleep. It's definitely not the most plush, the most comfortable. It wasn't the deepest sleep, but the room does get cold. It doesn't get ice cold, but it does get cold, and it gets relatively dark as well. So all of those things are a plus. Overall, passes the bed test here. Some of the other things in the room, though, we're definitely gonna have to talk about. Time for the room score. That's nice. Let's do a little bit of a recap. The materials in this room, the way it's designed, is just not up to the caliber of other Ritz-Carlton Reserves, with the exception of maybe the Ritz-Carlton Higashiyama. This hotel is not even close to Ritz-Carlton Dorado Beach, which has a private plunge pool, or Ritz-Carlton Nekauwee, that you're just deep in the jungle and everything is designed beautifully. This one feels a little bit like they skimped on some of the materials and the budget in the room. There were some positives. The bed was comfortable. It passed the bed test. There's modern integrations into the room. The bathroom is spacious. A couple of things that were good, but they also failed the shower test, and overall, there wasn't really anything in here that made me impressed. But if you consider everything, I gave the room a 5.5 out of 10. Now let's talk about the dining at the Ritz-Carlton Reserve here. There are fundamentally 3 core restaurants that you can have, and they do a lot of different pop-ups and different fun nights, like Cantina Night, where they have a mariachi band come out and play. But I want to show you the main core restaurants as well as the cafe. I'm gonna get dressed. Let's get into the dining. Good morning from El Barrio. So El Barrio has some traditional Mexican dishes here. You have seaside views like most of the restaurants that you'll see in this dining segment. There's also an indoor area that has a brick wall that is, in my opinion, distinctly, significantly different than what you're gonna find out here. So if you can't eat at El Barrio, definitely come outside. I've already received the dishes that I've ordered here. This is the huevos rancheros here today. So we have a ranchero sauce with a thin corn tortilla on it and some eggs that are hidden underneath. We also have a traditional Mexican concha here. This is a concha de vanilla, which means a vanilla concha. I've never actually had this before, but I've seen it many times as I've lived in Los Angeles. When I first moved there, I was in an area in Los Angeles where everyone spoke Spanish. There were markets that I would go to and I would see these kind of pastries. I never got a chance to try them. I always wanted to. So coffee has arrived. Let's do our little dip here. Oh, wow. That is dangerous. That is something I'd want to eat every morning. Ooh, beautiful. I'm gonna be eating the rest of that in just a second. Okay, let's try the huevos rancheros here. So you can see, it is a beautiful plate. I like this really thin tortilla that they have. Honestly, I like it. It's like a tortilla chip. It's so crunchy, this thin corn tortilla they have. And the ranchero sauce is lovely. Their eggs are really hidden down here. Oh, there we go. They break in the center, very nice. Well, that was breakfast. There's quite a lot more to see here at the Ritz Reserve. We have a little pit stop coming up next. Taking a quick break to show you the Azul coffee shop here on property. So the reason it's called Azul and the reason there's this dark blue color back here is because that's the same color as Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera when they were together, their house here in Mexico. They look like they have some incredible espresso and coffee, so I'm gonna grab a quick one of those. This is an outdoor cafe area right next to the pool, cool breeze coming through, and a very simple way to get some great coffee. All right, I had to get a croissant, of course, and an espresso here. So let's talk about the atmosphere at the cafe briefly. You're right next to the main pool here, and it kind of feels like it was just added over to the side. It's a beautifully designed little shop, but it's very, very tiny, and it's also outside. So if you want to get a hot coffee, for example, you don't have air conditioning out here, but we have to hold judgment until we actually try these two. Coffee is great. You watched it, she made it by hand there, pulled the espresso shot, which is always a big plus. Then we have our croissant. Let's give it a try. Goes without saying, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Mexico is not known for their croissants. That is not something you'd come here for. And this one is definitely subpar. It's pretty soft and sticky, so it kind of pulls apart. It doesn't have that nice crunch. Could be the humidity, it's a little bit moist as well. So not the biggest fan of this, but the coffee is excellent. But now, I want to see how they handle lunch. Getting deeper into the dining segment here, this is Ekis. Ekis is a beautiful oceanside lunch and dinner restaurant right on the sand. I didn't want to take a lot of time to show you everything here that they serve, but there are a couple of unique things about Ekis. First is they have a full open fire grill right here on the beach, and they have a pizza maker as well. So you get the idea, you sit in the little lounge area, you can have a bonfire with s'mores, you look at the sunset, have a cocktail. It is that kind of restaurant. The dishes here are fundamentally similar to what you're going to see in just a moment. Here we are, the main event at the Ritz-Carlton Zadún. This is humo, which means smoke in Spanish. This is a fascinating dining concept here. So not only am I actually surrounded by fire as I'm having this dinner, the entire menu is based on the different aspects of fire. So humo meaning smoke. You also have the fire and ancient traditional ways that they cook the dishes, which means a giant fire grill. They also have some traditional hand cranks that they use for dishes. There's colors inside the actual restaurant that represent the different colors of a flame, from the black charcoal to the red marble. They also have a pretty exceptional looking menu. I asked the server what the best items on the menu are tonight, and so I ordered a starter, a main course, and a dessert. Excited to show you all of those. And there is a welcome drink here at humo that has a printed welcome to humo here on the top of the drink. Beautiful cocktail. The first dish has arrived here at humo. This is a grilled Miraflores corn, which has a aioli on the top and some lemon as well. It really looks minimalistic, beautiful, this stone plating, little bit of crumble behind it here. I'm expecting this to kind of taste like elote. I grew up eating a lot of corn. Minnesota, it's pretty much a staple of the summer out there, especially around 4th of July. Corn on the cob is a true favorite of mine. This is like a mini corn on the cob mixed with a Mexican street corn. Really excellent dish here. I'm overall super impressed with this first dish. That is a great dish, I'd order again. Here we go, the main course, the main dish has arrived here. These are the empanadas tonight with beef tenderloin and dates inside. So yes, I'm expecting a little sweet, a little savory. There's chimichurri on the side. I can tell you they are hot. The exterior is a little bit crunchy. Put a little chimichurri on top. After that baby corn, I am excited for this one. Wow. That instantly makes you feel calm. It's like a beef stew, a little bit of sweetness, that organic, natural sweetness that dates bring. I do cook at home, and I love using dates when I cook because it adds that touch of sweetness. It's not like putting sugar on beef, that would not work. The dates give it a natural kind of sweetness to it that creates a really, really overall great flavor profile. Exterior could not be better. Using that traditional flame to cook this, so it's so hot, just feels natural and hearty. Another great dish here at Humo. This is usually the part of the review for dinner where I do a water test. I put out a timer, I see how long it takes for them to refill the water, but as you can see here, my water's been empty for almost the entire dinner. So I can't even do the test unless they fill it for the first time. So as soon as he does, I will start the timer and we'll see how long it takes to refill, but I can tell you it's already not looking very good. However, we have to see the dessert. Here it is. Wow, beautiful, gracias. So tonight we have a roasted lemon sorbet. Roasted lemon, again, in the fire theme, with some fruit ceviche. You have a coconut milk drizzle they put over the top in the back. Okay, I don't want this one to melt here, but it is time for that water test. He finally filled this back up after the appetizer and the main course. Thank goodness for that, because I was parched. And we're gonna see how long it takes. Anything more than 5 minutes is a fail. Let's dive in here. Sorbet looks amazing. Oh, wow. It's like a fruit compilation. All of the tropical fruits got together and are being orchestrated by coconut. In fact, I like it so much. There was a second dessert on the menu that was really catching my eye. Still eating 3 minutes, 12 seconds. Dessert number 2 has arrived. Still no water in the water glass, but we're gonna bide the time with some charred Mexican caramel. So this dish, of course, looks like the cross-section of a tree that has been burnt to ash, but it's actually a chocolate mousse. I don't know about that inside of it. Something about the mousse being a kind of melted brown inside the artificial ash. Not the most appetizing by far, but let's see if the flavors come through. It is chocolate pudding in the simplest sense of the word. Cannot taste the ash, cannot taste the crunch. There's no texture with anything on top or on the side. It's almost like a powder, a fine powder. This one's not my favorite. Probably wouldn't order this again, but I'm glad I got it. I think it's interesting. I will also say we are at 10 minutes and 12 seconds with the water test here, which is about time for us to call it. That is officially a fail of the water test here at dinner. I had water 1 time throughout this entire meal. We'll talk about that in the service segment later. However, I did like the dishes, and it's our time for the dining score. And I have a very cool location to give this score in. It's actually the most iconic building in this property and their main bar. All right, the fire is off, the check is here. I know we're expecting to go to the bar, but I wanted to talk about the price a little bit here. Everything that you just saw was $144 US, which is 2,400 Mexican pesos. Relatively reasonable for a dinner here, especially when it includes service charge, but it is absolutely at the same price point as what you'd find in Los Angeles, New York, Las Vegas. It is Los Cabos. To be expected, nothing too astronomical. Now let's go. This building is really what you see when you Google Ritz-Carlton Reserves Zadún. It's an architectural masterpiece, and it also holds their main bar here. So this is kind of the central area, although there's not a lot of seating in here for guests to come and get a cocktail, but it is a great spot for the dining score. Look, if you consider everything that you saw in the dining, the dishes had great flavors to them. There's a nice diversity here on property of the different restaurants you can have, and they do have those pop-ups in different nights of the week. But with that being said, I wasn't really blown away. There were a couple of dishes that were excellent, but a few others, like the croissant and various other things, that just felt like they didn't live up to the standards that we normally see at ultra-luxury hotels, especially a Ritz-Carlton Reserve. Generally, I do recommend eating at these restaurants here, however, but I wouldn't make a special trip for it. I gave the dining a 7.5 out of 10. Now, the service in the dining segment was not very good. The water took over 10 minutes to arrive to the table. It was very slow service, not very hands-on. They weren't really cleaning or clearing very fast. But we won't know for sure until we give the Ritz-Carlton Reserve a couple of the tests. It is 7:06 a.m. here. They are 6 minutes late with the breakfast service trial. It's already somewhat at risk of potentially failing because of that, but we have to check the Eggs Benedict and the black coffee first. This breakfast is 1,036 Mexican pesos, which comes out to $61.36 in US dollars. That's a pretty expensive breakfast service trial here, but it does include a 15% service charge and there's no gratuity, so it's about here in the grid. Without further ado, let's dive in. Now, we're gonna test the runniness of the egg, which really tells you a lot about this meal. If it was prepared recently, if it was overcooked, how it was prepared, but visually I can say the asparagus, the cherry tomatoes, the little spice they put on top, makes it an appetizing dish. So while I'm cutting this to try it, I wanna tell you why I pick Eggs Benedict. The reason that I pick Eggs Benedict is because it's a really good litmus test, and a litmus test is a consistent test that we can perform at every one of these hotels that gives you a lot of information. The cherry tomatoes give it a nice little acidity. The flavors are fine. They're not exceptional for an Eggs Benedict. It's not the dining segment, but I wasn't blown away. Best part of the day, my coffee lovers out there. I also want to remark, that's the kind of coffee carafe we really like here. That's a big coffee carafe, so I'm definitely going to be drinking all of that before the day today. Cheers. A little flavorless, but it is nice. That first cup of coffee, just, there's nothing quite like it. So generally, that is the breakfast service trial. This is a hard one. I'm right on the edge of a pass for this one. I am gonna give it a pass. This pushes us right over the line. You do pay a little bit more to have 4, 5, 6 cups of coffee in there. We won't know for sure how the service is here, however, till I give it the official service test. So I have some unfortunate news. Due to the incident escalating over the last couple of days, which you may have seen on the channel, I unfortunately cannot stay in Los Cabos anymore for this review. So I had an idea to do the service test for something in Los Angeles. So we're gonna finish strong and cover everything back in LA. Now, if you're not familiar with the service test, it's the part of my reviews where I call the front desk or the butler, and in this case, it is your Tosani, which is fundamentally your host or your butler, and I ask for something that they're not used to accommodating. And when we get back to Los Angeles, I'm gonna show you if they actually completed it, and we'll give this hotel a service score at the end.
Good afternoon. Thank you for calling the call center. This is
Hi there. So I was calling to see if I could request something be sent to Los Angeles by chance.
Do you have it right now with you, sir?
No. So what I was hoping is I want to have a memory of this stay. And of course, I'll pay for shipping. I don't mind that. Take your time, of course. And like I said, I'll pay for it. But I just want to have a memory of this trip and something that I can put on the shelf at home.
Let me verify what we could do. Also to verify with the company of shipping to see exactly if these can be sent. And then we will send you all the details.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
It is a pleasure, sir.
All right, we'll be down there in a second to head out.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, bye-bye. Wanted to do something sentimental, something that would help me remember this place. You never know, you may have lost something here and you need the team to ship it to you wherever that may be, and I think this is a good test of that. Okay, sadly, packed up, and it is time to leave Mexico. We'll pick this back up in Los Angeles. So let's talk about the service overall at the Ritz-Carlton Zadún. The turn-down service was solid, as was the welcome amenity and the welcome drink, and generally felt very hands-on throughout the entire stay. Although I wasn't very impressed with the Tasani, the butler. We had a WhatsApp chat going and he was communicative, but it just didn't feel like there was much personalization to that role, and there were many things I had to keep reminding him to do, like moving the amenities in the room, setting up the fire outside, and little things like that were missed. Generally speaking, it was an impressive service experience. It's been a couple of days now since I made that call in the room for the service test, so I can't wait to see if they were able to pull it off here in LA. There was one more thing I needed to do in Los Cabos that I didn't get a chance to do, and that is tell you about a very new, exciting partner for the channel, Whoop Wearables. So, one issue I've always had, the bed test in the review, it kind of just relies on me giving you my perspective and opinion on the sleep, and you have to take that at face value. So I thought, why not have scientific data and information to back the statements that I'm telling you about my sleep, my heart rate variability, and my recovery? That is what I'm partnering with Whoop to do for a few of these videos coming up here. Also very excitedly, Whoop now has advanced labs, which allows you, whether you're a Whoop user or not, to get blood work and track it regularly through the Whoop app. So I don't know about you, I don't make it into my physical as much as I should, and Whoop Advanced Labs makes it so easy, so simple, and comprehensive to get those biomarkers that really only you can find by getting your blood work done. So I'm going to be getting my blood work done over the next couple of videos and using that data alongside the Whoop wearable while I'm sleeping to get a really great baseline and see the variability in the sleep and use that to determine if they pass the bed test or not. So look forward to that on the channel. Thank you, Whoop, for sponsoring this video. I'm sorry we couldn't do it in Mexico. You've been amazing partners and can't wait to implement this fully on the channel. Okay, let's get back to the house and see if the Ritz-Carlton Zadún made good on that service test. So I got a message from the team at Ritz-Carlton Zadún. Unfortunately, the package has been delayed and now will be a couple more days before it makes it to Los Angeles. So keep in mind, this service test is challenging because other hotels have had fast turnarounds for less challenging requests. I will also say I've had to follow up with them multiple times just to check on the progress, to see if it was actually being shipped, to go through multiple different teams. So generally, they did respond well to the service test, and it sounds like something is on its way. So I'm going to hold judgment on the service test results, but check the community tab here on YouTube in a couple of days, and I'll let you know what arrived and if it arrived on time. And if it didn't, we may have to adjust the service score, which is coming next. Unfortunate about the service test, but if you consider everything in the service experience at the Zadún, it really was a wonderful stay. They just went the extra mile just because they want to make sure their guests are taken care of. I gave the service an 8 out of 10, with the asterisk that if that does not arrive by tomorrow like they said that it would, check back in the community tab and we may have to make an adjustment, but we'll decide together. The It Factor category is comprised of 3 considerations. That is the location, the unique nature of the hotel, and the value. Starting with the location. The Ritz-Carlton Zadún is on the east coast of Los Cabos, but again, it is not a swimmable beach, which is a big consideration if you're looking for a Mexico vacation. However, you can take a car for a short distance to some of the public beaches that are swimmable in the area, and that same car can really take you anywhere you want to go in the Los Cabos region. So you could have a party, you could go to a beach, you could just go have a nice taco in the town. There's a lot of options for you in the area. But close by to the Ritz-Carlton Zadún, not so much. Location-wise, there are definitely better resorts in the area, even those that are maybe less luxurious, but put you right in the center of the action if that's what you're looking for. So it really depends if you want a resort stay where you're going to stay there the entire time, or are you more interested in exploring the area. If you're looking for the latter, this may not be the perfect location for you. But what really made that hotel unique? Well, it wasn't the most memorable. That property reminded me of the Waldorf Astoria Pedregal that I reviewed, one of the first reviews on the channel actually, but it had a little less creativity and immersion to it. For example, El Farallon at the Waldorf Astoria is such a scenic and beautiful restaurant, and there was something similar, but not quite the same. And finally, the value. Is it worth it to stay at the Ritz-Carlton Zadún? Well, some hotels in Los Cabos go for $2,000 to $3,000 US per night. But if you get this hotel during the off season, you can come in at around $850. And that's a big difference in a very wide range. Now, there are quite a lot of complimentary activities here at the Ritz-Carlton Zadún, and they also have those cultural nights with the mariachi bands and various other fun things happening. It really does feel like a good value for the money. However, if you got it during the peak season and you're in the $1,000 to $2,000 range, maybe not so much. Now remember, you can't actually swim at that beach, but the pool is really lovely with complimentary popsicles, so I do think it's worth a stay here in Los Cabos. So with those three in consideration, I gave the it factor a 7.5 out of 10. So that was the Ritz-Carlton Reserves Zadún. And unfortunately, I am back in Los Angeles and we do need to check out of the video. But before I do that, I want to give that hotel a final score out of 50. So if you add together all of the scores throughout this review, I gave the Ritz-Carlton Reserves Zadún in Los Cabos, Mexico, a 35.5 out of 50. I recommend the hotel if you're not going to be spending a lot of time in the room and you really want that quintessential Los Cabos experience. With that, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.